don't supplement with it, but there are reasons some people supplement with micro doses of Good morning, friends. Yesterday I was surprised by the wonderful response I got to the short supplement stack that I included about inflammation and oxidative stress. So today I want to tell you guys a little bit about my opinion on supplementing minerals. There are two minerals I really like to supplement. I'll tell you why and how. But before I do, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, like the video, and comment on the video for the sake of the algorithm. First of all, a disclaimer. I'm assuming that people that are like myself, they eat varied foods, they eat whole foods like plants and fruits and nuts especially, and meat. So I assume that they get a certain kind of mixture of minerals naturally. What I'm talking about here is supplementing to enhance your performance, and particularly cognitively. So there are two minerals that are very useful for improving cognitive performance. The first one is zinc, and the second is magnesium. But let me tell you about how I use them exactly. First of all, about zinc. There's a form of zinc called zinc picolinate. I'll include a link of a brand that I trust down below in the comment section. I'll pin the comment. But so zinc picolinate is considered to be the most absorbable form in studies. But you cannot absorb zinc very well if you take it with a meal. I have been surprised to see that most people don't know this. A lot of people supplement zinc like after their meal with their other supplements. You're really not absorbing a lot of that. Also, even the zinc in meat and so on and also in like some seafood is not as absorbable as taking some zinc on an empty stomach. What I do without fail, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you guys, is I take two zinc supplementation. I take zinc twice a day on an empty stomach. And in my case, it's earlier part of the day doing time-restricted eating. Oh, let's do a side note here. Some people were asking about time-restricted eating and whether taking EPA from fish oil or butyrate would screw up the time-restricted eating. It may screw up the circadian clock very slightly because it's a very low amount of food. I don't even think that's the case. But it certainly doesn't screw up a fast. What causes a fast to break in terms of activating pathways in the body that work for repair or growth, what causes a fast to break is protein, particularly like the amino acid leucine, which turns on mTOR, and the other one is carbohydrates at enough of a dose that insulin starts signaling. That's why Walter Longo's fasting mimicking diet contains about 1,000 calories from fat and carbs. So just so you guys know that taking things during your fast is not breaking your fast during the day, especially during time-restricted eating. But anyway, back to zinc. So I take zinc twice a day at between 20 to 30 milligrams, depending on the product I'm using at the time. So I get a total of around 50 to 60 milligrams on an empty stomach during the day. The reason why I take zinc is this. Zinc has been shown to improve the performance of SSRIs. And the way it does it is by activating mTOR in the brain. So zinc has a noticeable effect. So some of you, for example, have taken zinc with magnesium before you sleep, for example. That effect, a lot of it has come from the zinc. And even though you don't take it before you sleep, if you take it at the end of the day, but if you're on an empty stomach, you could take it before you sleep. But even though you don't, if you're observant, you'll notice a change in your cognition and behavior and mood from supplementing zinc, even if you're not deficient. Now, the second mineral is magnesium. Before I tell you about that, let me tell you something. There's a single nucleotide polymorphism, an SNP, in everybody's genes that, depending on the alleles that you have, can affect your IQ by an average of 5.0. That's 5%. And that SNP is just associated with magnesium transport, particularly into the brain. So magnesium is a very powerful, important component of our cognitive processes. And how we use magnesium really affects our ability to think. Now, magnesium is a cofactor used in the brain for a lot of processes, including inhibitory processes. When I talk about magnesium here, I'm going to talk about elemental magnesium. That means the magnesium without, for example, magnesium bisglycinate has two glycines attached to the magnesium. If you just weigh the magnesium by itself and isolate it, that's elemental magnesium. So if you look at the back of your bottle, you'll see how much it has in elemental magnesium. And for example, most of the magnesium supplements, when you turn it around and look at the amount of elemental magnesium you're getting for how much they're recommending, it's going to be somewhere around 200 or 150 milligrams, something like that. I've noticed that people don't have diminishing marginal returns when they add magnesium and they titrate it up until they get to quite high doses. I've noticed improvements in myself from taking, instead of 500 milligrams of elemental magnesium, taking 1,000. And I've also seen improvements going from 1,000 to 1,500. Although I tend to stay most of the time around 1,000 milligrams or a gram of elemental magnesium. That's why I highly recommend against certain kinds of magnesium. Magnesium oxalate, for example. The most absorbable form of magnesium in comparison studies in humans is magnesium bisglycinate. But unfortunately, we don't have great supplements or third-party reviewed supplements that have bisglycinate forms. Instead, there's a magnesium glycinate, which you can find more often. And there's also studies that compare magnesium L-threonate to some other magnesiums, but not to bisglycinate. Magnesium L-threonate, the studies have been funded by a company that probably promoted magnesium L-threonate originally. So there's a little bit of question about why don't they compare it to magnesium bisglycinate, for example, and so on. But it's thought that magnesium L-threonate may enter the brain better than other forms of magnesium. And it's also much more expensive though. So some people choose to supplement with a bit of L-threonate, a bit of bisglycinate, or a bit of glycinate, or a bit of citrate, for example, which is a worse version in my opinion. Or some people take everything from L-threonate, but usually you'll have to take a lot of pills for that. So when you do start magnesium, you have to be concerned about the laxative effect. What I would do is I would take a small amount of magnesium with each of my meals. And I would slowly, very slowly titrate it up. So I may begin with 100 milligrams of elemental magnesium, and a week later I might add another 50 milligrams and slowly go up, so that you don't get this extreme laxative effect initially. So those are the two elements that I really believe most people should probably supplement with for improved cognitive performance. There are other elements that are very interesting. For example, lithium and the form called lithium orotate, which by the way is more kidney toxic than normal lithium. Well, maybe I should actually make a separate video on lithium because I don't supplement with it, but there are reasons some people supplement with microdoses of lithium, which is a really interesting subject. I don't really think it's that effective. By the way, lithium at higher doses is a very potent antidepressant. In fact, it's probably the most powerful antidepressant at inhibiting suicidal ideation. You know, a lot of people get put on SSRIs when they're suicidal, and really I think a lot of the time this is done by psychiatrists who don't realize how much more evidence lithium has at inhibiting suicidal ideation. But the problem is, over a year-long period or 2-year-long period, it might be okay for your health, but over about 20 or 30 years of supplementing lithium, you'll end up with kidney failure. And those higher doses of lithium, though, lithium is a potent glucose synthase kinase 3 inhibitor, which has health effects and also is highly serotonergic, improves the serotonergic system and increases neurogenesis and so on. So we should have a separate discussion on lithium, but zinc and magnesium are what I would consider almost everybody watching this channel should probably be supplementing. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the afternoon.